everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox. Thank you for joining me today on our continued journey of self-examination. For those of you that are new, this series started out with the journey of self-discovery, and what that is really returning home to yourself, discovering your authentic self, and getting rid of things that no longer serves us. As we do that, we are now entering into this phase of self-examination and identity architecture. And what that is really digging in and examining yourself. Traditions, norms, conventional practices, habits, patterns, things in your life that no longer serve you. And they no longer serve you. And sometimes you're not even aware that they exist. And I have shared about myself how I continue to discover things about me that really I was not aware of. I shared in a few weeks back how I discovered that in my life I was not my priority. I did not make myself my priority. It's not a matter of good or bad, right or wrong. It's simply I just didn't, and it's not because somebody asked me to put them first. You just do this by default because a lot of we're so conditioned by social construct and by the patriarchal system and the religious indoctrination. We are so programmed and conditioned that we go through life just performing or being who we really are not. We are shaped based on our identity is shaped by inherited beliefs, and we don't even know that. So sometimes we get anxious or sad, depressed, or we second guess ourselves. We don't trust our intuition, our heart, the things that we, our critical thinking skills, our emotional intelligence. We don't trust it. Why? Because we are so conditioned to follow the collective. But we're in a place now. We are in a space now where we are not only discovering our true selves or returning back to our true self, but we are self-examining everything. So when I discovered that I was not, that I had my husband as priority in our relationship, in our lives, and it's not something that he asked me. Of course, he always say, well, it's interesting because he always say things like, boy, you've spoiled me so much. And I always take that as a compliment. And but now my question is like, why? Why would I take that as a compliment? Or why would I spoil him, and betray myself? I call it self-betrayal, self-abandonment. You abandon who you are to put someone first, to give them preference and so forth. So it's just really becoming aware that you must take care of yourself. You must recognize, acknowledge, and know who you are, and walk in the fullness of who you are, so that you can live a fulfilled life and give your best self to others. And wherever you go, whether it's work or church or your friend group, whatever, you show up as your best self. So this self-examination, this week, the whole topic has been about relationships. And I know that I am part of that as well, because as I go through this journey of self-examination, I am examining everything. One of the things that I have learned is that I learned and appreciated is the honesty. I have to be honest with myself and start to look at things as they are and not what I wish it to be or how I hope it to be. I have to look at things as they are and really come to the understanding and come to the truth. and either decide if it's something that I accept, or if now this journey of my life, if it's become a deal breaker or a non-negotiable. And it's interesting because when you start making these decisions for yourself, you're going to have some changes in whatever situation it is. For me, it's in my own relationship. Now, whether you've been married 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, it doesn't matter. I always say that the purpose of life is pleasure. And I mean that. We are created to do the best we can, to live a pleasant life, to be content, to be happy, to be joyful, because you know what? Things happen along the way. But if you have that mindset, then of course you're focused on a life of fulfillment, and not the bad things that can happen, because it happens, things that happen, it doesn't discriminate at all. It's not a matter of where you live, how much money you have, what profession you have. No, things happen to everyone. But when you have a mindset of an expectation that you expect, anticipate, and hope for the best in every situation and for everything, then that's where your focus lies, and that's what you're going to attract. So, in a relationship, as I said, whether you're married 10, 20, 60 years, as time goes on, you become, and that's by default, you become sometimes monotonous. You live on autopilot without sometimes even realizing it. I have discovered some things in my relationship, in my marriage, that I was not even aware of. And as I took the what do you call it? Not telescope, the magnifying glass, to take a close look at it, I discovered, no, that's not. I don't want that. Now, keep in mind, I always say that when you live, you must be intentional in everything that you do. You must be intentional in everything that you do. Because if you're not intentional, then you're going to be performative. You just perform life. And so many people are performing life. Some people think that their life may be so far gone that they don't have an opportunity to rebuild it, to recreate, to step into that place where they will find fulfillment and joy within themselves and the people around them. But I'm telling you that it can happen. Now, in a relationship, sometimes, you go through life and you just go through the motion. You become bill paying partners. You become roommates. Some people become roommates. Some people just they're just there with no motivation, no stimulation, no hopes, no anticipation, no dreams, no goals, no adventure, no gusto to live. But you really want that. Both parties want that. You want affection, you want attention, you want to be heard, you want to be seen, you want to be loved and cherished, but mindfully, intentionally, not just performatively, because it is so easy to fall into performance. You do things because of that's the way you've always done it. And in the meantime, sometimes, we see things and, we desire certain things, and we can become anxious or depressed or saddened. Sometimes people get into low grade depression because they see certain lifestyle as unattainable. And as I began to not only inventory, but really examine the quality of my own relationship, as I said, I discovered some things that were so routine and monotonous. And some things that I have the language to define as self betrayal and self abandonment. And it's not a bad thing. It's just that when you don't when you don't take heed to your needs, your wants, your desires, and the things that you want, you abandon yourself. You abandon yourself to please others. You abandon yourself to give someone else first place or first choice or priority. You abandon yourself. You betray the loyalty in honoring yourself. And for me, that's important. And a lot of you have shared how now in the relationship, some of you are empty nesters and your kids are gone, and you've shared that you look around and you don't even recognize the person that you're living with, which is your spouse. And some of you have shared that you have now resorted to separate bedrooms, and you could spend time sitting in the same living room, but you're not really connected. All of those things are things that I think it's important to pay attention to. And as I went through and examined and so forth, I had to have a conversation with my husband about that. And I want to call it the end of a marriage because that's really what happened. We decided to uh, the marriage, end the marriage to do a reset into a new relationship. You end the marriage and you do a reset, with the same characters, the same people, because you like each other. Now, that may not work for everyone because in order to do a reset, you need two people that want to do that. And it's really fascinating because when you do a reset, you are ending your marriage. You are ending the marriage system. You are ending the marriage dynamics, if you will. And when you do a reset, it's like when you do a factory reset to a phone. When you do a reset, you are starting out brand new, as if you're meeting the person for the first time. As if you're meeting the person for the first time. And you start, it's like starting over, two people, but this time you're grown, you're mature, you have evolved, you're more self aware, you're honest about what you want. That's important, to be honest about what you want. Some people don't have the liberty or feel the freedom to express what you want in life. What do you want in a relationship? What do you want in this partnership? What do you want in this union? When my husband and I, when we were having this discussion, we said, fortunately, we didn't do the vows. We didn't do marriage vows like for better, for worse, for richer, for poor. We didn't do that. So for us, there's no covenant to keep. The covenant is with ourselves. And fortunately, we still like each other and we love each other and we respect each other. But we want to end the marriage. We end the marriage and we start a brand new relationship as if meeting for the first time. And I'm telling you, it is so fascinating because you know what? You become curious about the person again. You're dating, you start courting each other again. You start, not only are you getting, becoming curious about each other, because remember, as you evolve, you have certain dreams, certain desires, certain expectations. Your standards may have changed. Your boundaries may have, you may have to update your boundaries. You may have to update your boundaries. There are changes that has to happen. Your expectations, what it is that you expect out of life. If you are a person that, whether you're working or retired or whatever, if you decide, you want to be more active, you want to, whether it's get into something, a hobby, or start traveling, or some people call it date nights. I don't do that because we We do that all the time. And, but now we want to be so aware. As a matter of fact, I shared, well, over the weekend, we went out to uh, this nice restaurant and overlooking the lake, in front of the lake. And, we were there, and it was a nice evening. We had our margaritas and so forth. And next to us, the table adjacent to ours, there was this couple. And I was facing them. They sat side by side. My husband and I sat where we could look each other in the eye. That's just what we do, or what we did. Depending on the setting, sometimes it's side by side, but in most cases, it's face to face. So I was in a position where I could watch the couple. And the husband, it was just so beautiful. The husband sat there and he was eating, and his hand was just caressing the arm of his wife. They were wearing a wedding ring, so I'm assuming that they were married. And he was just rubbing on her arm. These are little things that I observed. And then when he was finished with, a portion of his food, he put his arm around her neck and he was just caressing her neck. It was just so beautiful. And then he took his drink and he told her, like, tasted whatever drink he had. And then after, he kissed her on the forehead. But he was not performing. The guy was not. And they were like salt and pepper. So I know they were, but in my mind, I'm thinking they were probably on like a second or third marriage or something like that. And he was not performing. You could tell this was a lifestyle of theirs. So I just could not help myself. And I said, you guys must be newlyweds. And so, he looked at me and he said, no. And, there she is, all smiles. And he said, no, we've been married for 33 years. I said, you have got to be kidding me. Look, I am telling you, that was just so beautiful to observe, because you don't see that too often in couples. You don't see that too often. And I thought, you know what? I needed to let them know how they were observed and how beautiful that is. And I'm thinking, I was thinking in terms of the emotional connection between them, and all those things are, I'm saying, wow, I don't know what her expectations are, but she was just content, relaxed, and so calm. And he was whatever he was doing, the way he was caressing his wife, you could tell that's his MO. Getting back to our deal here. That's the thing. What are your expectations? How are you in your relationship? What do you expect? And for those of you that may be single, again, even if you are single and expecting to meet someone and get married and so forth, or just meet someone and have a partner, there are certain expectations that you can predetermine what they are for you. What are the things that you expect? Now, for those of you that are mindful of a reset, remember, okay, reset. You have new expectations, new plans, new hopes. What are your hopes? You have a new way of loving each other. Whatever didn't happen in the past, because what is going to happen, when you do a reset, the data of the past is completely erased. You erase the data of the past. Now, you may have some wonderful memories that you can engage in, but as far as anything that may be negative or not pleasant, or that may be boring, or arguments, or situations that you may have had in your relationship, whether it's family or friends or work or any of that, All of that is you reset it. You get rid of that. You are ending the marriage, but you are resetting your relationship. The same person, and both of you have to be engaged in it. When you're resetting, you talk about a new lifestyle. What is it that you want to do starting now from your reset date? What is it that you want to do now? Take walks, start a hobby, take short trips, road trips. What kind of lifestyle? Go out to dine, spend time with friends, shop together, surprise each other with little gifts. What is it? Cook together. What is the lifestyle that you want to engage in now? You will have new priorities. Now, in my case, I know that I will not move myself from that place of being the priority in my life. Yeah, my husband knows that. That's not even an issue, because he never told me or even asked me from any time to make him my priority. That was never a topic of discussion. I just assumed that by default. And many of us, a lot of you that have raised kids and you have a spouse and all that, we just automatically, you cook and then you serve them a meal first, and you do this, that, the other, and you're the one that takes care of everything because you prioritize someone before you. And ever since I became aware of that, I stepped back from over functioning, and it's so beautiful to see my husband pick up the pace in a lot of things that he would say, honey, would you do this for me? I said, no, you can do it, or I'm gonna let me finish this first before it's not before I would be like right on it. It does something to your psychic. I'm telling you, when you start favoring and honoring yourself, it's a whole new ball game. So you prioritize, you will have new choices. You will have a new outlook. You can get a new outfit too. A new outlook on life, what you want it to be, and not just the humdrum. There are some of you that have shared that you are putting up with so much and you're so sad of your relationship, sad because there's no life. You call it lifeless, and you don't know where it's going. And I don't, that's not a life that I can engage in. You just do things, or you may dedicate your whole life, your whole thought, your whole activity, your whole motivation to the kids or the grandkids. But that's not really what you want. You want a life of your own. You want a life of your own, but you just don't. And when I say life of your own, perhaps with your spouse, but one person said that her husband comes home and he goes and he plays video games, and then he eats, but he eats in his chair, lazy boy chair, and with the video games. Well, that to me is a little extreme, but that is that person's experience. In the meantime, she comes home and she has to cook and do a lot of whole things. So there's a little bit of depression in that kind of relationship, and what happens is you build anger and resentment and sometimes even contempt. Once you reach the area of contempt or detachment, then you know that your relationship is in serious trouble. So again, you will have a new outlook. You will think of new adventures, new standards, and new boundaries. It is two people, getting rid of all the conditioning. And the same way we talk about creating or stepping into a new identity based on the things that you choose, not the conditioning, not the programming, not the indoctrination. None of that is really creating the life that you want. I know with my husband, my husband always say, and we are so conscious of this, we will not allow anyone to get between us. No family, no mother, no father, no sisters, no brothers. We will not, and we simply don't. That's something that we have so clear. And we have done that for a while now. There was a time that, we had some situations, and we were able to address it, chaos and drama and all of that, kind of seeping in, and we're like, wait a minute, that's not ours. Because people can come into your lives or even just show up, and they're not even like in your midst, but their behavior, and because of the connection, it affects you. So you have to be mindful now. Wait a minute, no, this chaos, this stress, this drama doesn't belong to me. And you have to address it. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a parent or a sibling or a family member or a friend or a coworker. It doesn't matter. That's one thing that we have been so keen, so aware in protecting from the beginning. We simply don't. And it's worked good for us because we simply don't. But in this reset, people evolve, and as time goes on, the expectations, even people expect certain things of you, from you, and sometimes they take it for granted, or take your relationship for granted. So you're going to have to reset everything, and it's like you're recreating. Just imagine you're meeting your spouse for the first time again. So you don't even say again. You're meeting for the first time. What are you trying to do when you meet someone the first time? You try to impress them, you court them, you buy them gifts, you share a lot of things. Sometimes we get to a point where we don't share. Where we don't share. I was talking with my husband and I, we were talking, and he said something about yes, he had some ideas about some plans, about some options, whatever. I didn't know anything about that. I was like, well, wait a minute, I don't know anything about it. We need to discuss that. So we have, that is part of our reset thing. I know I need to, it's really having the deep conversations, my friend. The deep conversations your with your partner. And for those of you that are single, you can have a deep conversation with yourself, because remember, the best relationship you can have is the relationship with yourself. And once you determine what those things are, because when you meet someone, you're not there to go and sit at somebody's table. You come to the table and you see if you can build together. If you can build a life, if you can build a partnership together where there is joy and peace and contentment and abundance and prosperity between both of you, and you're looking out for the well-being of each other. It's a complete different mindset. It's ending the marriage. For people that have made vows, this may not work for you, and that's okay. This is not for everyone. But I'm just saying for you, because there's this thing now that I have seen on in the news. It's called gray divorce. And what it is, it's people that are in their 50s, 60s getting divorced because of a marriage that failed or didn't work, or for whatever reason, but they call it gray divorce. And then there's another dynamic that I have read as well. It's called It's really interesting. It's called, let's see here. Oh, here. Quitting in silence. They quit functioning in the marriage. They're not choosing divorce, but they quit functioning in the marriage. In other words, to each his own. It's like living as roommates. So they quit in silence. Now, quitting in silence sometimes happen with one person. Remember, if you're going to reset, you need two people that want to do that. But quitting in silence, you have the great divorce, and these are people that have had it. They are like, that's it. And sometimes it's not because of as a matter of fact, I heard this woman talking about, she said that she talked about her husband, that he's such a good man. She said he's a good man, but he's not a good husband. And it's not because he was abusive or anything, or cheat or anything. No, none of that. She said he did not meet her emotional needs. And she said she starved to death. And now that she's on her own, she does better, because she said alone she doesn't feel lonely, but to be with someone in the same space that you're connected to, but there's no interaction, she said it's the worst form of loneliness that happens, that exists. But now that she is on her own, she's living it up. She's, in a position where she can travel and go out. And then she talks about solo dining. She goes out on her own and dine, and her friends, and she's just doing a whole lot of things that she wasn't able to do when she was in her marriage. And they call that gray divorce, because she's 60 plus or something, 50, 60 plus. They call that gray divorce. And I guess it's because, gray hair or whatever. And then the quitting in silence are people that are in a relationship, and they're just there in a routine, in and out. It's like you're waiting to expire. No life, no juice, no attention, no motivation, no stimulation, just nothing. You are just there. Now, some people are cut out for that, and it's okay with some people. They are okay, and they're saying they're not going to rock the boat, they're not going to upset the apple cart. It is what it is. This is the way we are. And some people, they are limited by finances, or just being able to, maybe they have physical limitations or things like that, and they can't, they're not resourceful enough to find a way to do or to get done what they need to get done in order to live a life that is fulfilled. It's a situation, it's a thing that's going on. And I never really, when I talk about self-examination, I I found it fascinating. I didn't know where it would take me. Every day I do research and I read, and I just want to know what's happening so that I can come and I can share this with you. Little did I know that it would affect my life that way. But I love it because I don't I don't I will never be bored, because if I am by myself, I enjoy my company. I like to read, and I like to just dig in and research thing and knowledge. I like that. But in some relationships, as I said before, there's no stimulation. There's no purpose. There's no goal. There's just and even if you're older, As a matter of fact, I think there's a game that's out now. There's like a card game, not card like cards. It's like there are a lot of questions, and you can flag it and ask each other questions, and you get to know each other on a deeper level. And that's something that, if you are restricted to being at home, you can have that, because you will never stop learning. You will never stop learning about someone else, because we are constantly evolving. For some it's happening consciously, and for others, but just the fact that you're alive, you hear what's going on around the world, the news, the things, the changes, the food, and all of that. You become aware of things. So there's always things that we can share with each other. There's always things we can share with each other. But when you decide to do a reset, I'm telling you, to me, it is fascinating. And again, a reset is not for everyone, because two people, you have to want to, and that happens when you like the person, not just love the person, but you like your partner, your spouse, your husband, your partner, your spouse. You like the person, and you want to restart again with that person. You want to do a reset. So you're not bringing up things from the past. You're not bringing up old wounds, old hurts, old situations that were unpleasant. You're not blaming, you're not judging, you're not shaming, you're not criticizing, you're not condemning, you're not doing any of that. Just make believe. When my husband and I met for the first time, we didn't go through past relationships at all. We did not talk about this happened. No, we did not. We didn't talk about our past relationships till this day. We have not talked about our past relationships. It wasn't important. At least I didn't see it that way. I didn't care all I knew is that he was single and available, and vice versa. And we just navigated in that way, starting brand new. So like now, when I think of that, and when we made that decision, we need a reset to get it going. And the first few years of your marriage, you're hot and spicy, and things are happening, and not only intimately, but you're excited about the person. You're excited about what they have learned, how they have grown, how they have matured, how they're now learning about you, and how you will treat each other, how you will address each other, the level of respect that you will have for each other, how you will prioritize each other over everyone outside of your house. You will make sure that your household is your priority, of course, after yourself. You're starting fresh and new. You defend each other, you stick up for each other, you admire each other. It's fascinating, but you have to want to. And I like the way, when I said, when we were talking, and I said the end of a marriage, we need to end the end of a marriage, but a reset of a new relationship. It is fascinating, because you know why? Every relationship has a culture. The way you do things, the way you see each other, the way you address each other, the attention you give to each other, the way you talk to each other, the way you show preference to each other, the way that you show each other that you choose them over and over and over and over every day, the way you are so mindful of the things that each other like, the desire to surprise your partner with whatever is going to make them happy, or joyful, glad, whatever situation that is. And your mindset is totally different. And every time, because we were talking about it, and I said, there's certain things that are a trigger. And if you know that there's a trigger of something, and then you agree, okay, we will make sure that we nip it or we address it. And we, if it's in the marriage, then we realize that the past marriage, it has ended. So you can't bring it into this reset because you've got a brand new phone. I can't wait for the new phone because you do a brand new reset and it's so brand new. And I know when I get a new phone, it's interesting because when I get a new phone, you spend a few hours going through everything that's new and all the upgrades and all the new things. And that's what it's like when you do a reset in your relationship. You are start this discovering thing. And then of course, when you sit and you talk and you have expectations, then one of the things that I know that we shared is that we will talk. We will let it doesn't matter how much it may be or how sensitive it might be or whatever. We will make sure that it is shared, that among us, between us, that we share the deep secrets or the deep feelings or thoughts that we have. That we share it, because it's really taking you to another level, my friend. I tell you, I'm impressed with that whole concept. I really am, because some people wait till they reach to a certain level in their relationship. Some people walk around mad, angry, resentful, afraid, and hurt, painful. Some people, one woman complained that she is like his last priority because he puts his family, his relative, his family first. And she's resentful of that. So it's hard for her to be genuine and authentic. Why? Because she's hurt. And this is not a gendered thing. There are men that suffer in silence as well, because, so it's not, it's a people thing. Whoever in your relationship. But it's important to understand and to know that, once you get married, your family there are secondary. And if there's tendency to be dipping into your affairs, then whoever family it is, then you need to take care of that and make sure that there is no intervention. We've been pretty successful in that, but we don't, we just, my husband and I, we are a unit and we keep it that way. Yeah, you love your family, but sometimes, I hear these horror stories about families and parents. And this recently I saw something where the wife and the husband went to pick up the mother and it's the husband's mother. He was driving. His wife is seated next to him. And so when the mother comes out, she expects the wife to get out of the front seat and go in the back so the mother can sit in the front. And the wife said, no, you go in the back. And she wasn't rude, but she was like, no, and there was a thing about who sits in the front, the mother or the wife. That should not even be an issue. But there was a big thing, and a lot of people chiming in. Some say the mother should sit in the front because she brought him into this world. And then some were saying the wife should because he chose her to be his life partner, and they were just going back and forth. And I know my position on that, but that's neither here nor there. But that's a thing. That is a thing, and those family dynamics, those family issues, uh, do happen. And there was another situation which I thought was interesting. There was this family cookout. What do you call it? Cookout grill. I don't know if it was July 4th of July, whatever. And so he shows up with his wife at her family setting. They were her family. And so they show up and they're having a good time and whatever. So when it's time to serve, she gets a plate and she serves her dad first. Now, I don't know if she did that out of habit or if the dad was. I don't. There's no specific in that. But the thing is, the husband got mad as hell, and he clocked her right there, and it became a thing where they had to leave. Imagine that. He got upset. In his mind, that's just not the way it works. Now, should he have clocked her in the middle of all these people and made a scene or whatever? And I don't know how big it got because it was sort of capsulized, but that's what happened. And she served her dad, with this plate of food, and there's the husband waiting, expecting to be served. See, in my case, we're both there. You serve yourself, I serve myself. And we come together at a table because my husband, he doesn't eat unless it's at a table. He always finds a place to eat at a table when we go out, even if we go into a, whatever, barbecue, backyard party or whatever. He's always going to buy. So I will serve mine and you serve yours and we just come together and eat. It's no big deal. We don't do the traditional stuff in a lot of areas. There's no gender specific. There's no gender assignment that you must serve me this and you must do this. Certain things like him, he opens the car door for me. That's just him. That's what he does. When I'm going to sit at a restaurant or wherever, he pulls the chair out. That's what he does. But, and I expect that's just a thing. I expect that now, and he's been doing that since we met. That's just the way. Anyway, that's what he does. But this whole thing about this woman serving her dad first, her husband, he was, and it was a thing. As a matter of fact, it was on a podcast that he called in, and he wanted to hear the opinions of people. Like is that and I. Again, in my case, I'm like, you know what you want. There are many choices. You don't just sit there and wait for me to serve you. That simply doesn't work for us. And my husband, gladly, he would get up and go serve himself. And I get up and I go serve myself. And then we always come back and try to find a place where we can sit together and we eat. So those are like family dynamics. You see, all those things, if you're doing a reset, you may have to change your tradition. If every year you go to this person's house for Thanksgiving or that person's house for Thanksgiving, and you have to bring this and bring that, and one year you decide, no, you don't want to do that anymore, then that is a reset. You include that where, in the expectations, you say, you voice the things that you expect. Remember, we talk about you'll have new expectations and new expectations, new plans, new hopes, new way of treating, of showing respect, new ways of loving each other, new ways of showing affection. Everything that everything that you desire. You know what's fascinating? Because, during the marriage, you don't go in, especially if you've raised kids, you're busy raising kids, and you're not even thinking about yourself, or the things that you need, you want, desire. Well, you're not thinking about any of that. But when you're doing a reset, then I know for us, we had to spend time within ourselves thinking, what is it that I want out of a new relationship? What is it that I want uh, to share? What kind of life do I want to build with this person for the next 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years, whatever? What is it that I want to build? What is it that's going to bring us joy? What am I going to contribute to this union, this new union? What is it that I'm going to add? How focused am I going to be? And again, you've got to stay intentional, because we can get so busy doing things. I know, like, my husband, he likes gardening, and he likes taking care of the curb appeal and all of that, and he's dedicated to that. Well, he may have to scale it down a little bit. Some days or some weekend he may say, no, I'm not going to do that. We're going to do this. We're going to take this time in the morning, and we're going to take a road trip, go someplace, go to the farmer's market and, get some things, or go to a wine tasting thing and have some fun, or go to a bazaar, or a boutique, or go shopping, whatever. We can do something different and not be so dedicated every Saturday or whenever to do this, to do that. It's always the long. No. And once you start identifying those habits, those patterns, then, because you're doing a reset, you can categorize the things that you want. This is a concern. This is a concern. But not a concern, but this is an expectation. Not a concern, because again, we're not going back to the marriage. The marriage has ended. We are starting a new relationship. We are resetting into a new relationship. So you start as a matter of fact, yeah, they're not concerned. So let me just backtrack a little bit. Let me digress. They're not concerned. They're expectations. These are now my expectations. So you may have plans to do XYZ, but if I come up with something to do, something out of the ordinary, let's take a 2-hour ride to the lake someplace and have a picnic or whatever. We will factor that in. We will make some changes, tweak some things. And if it's something that we can postpone or change or modify or whatever, then you do that. Why? Because again, you are starting a new relationship. You're resetting. And this way, of course, it mitigates all these divorces, these gray divorce, or I think quitting in silence is, to me, it's more not dramatical, but it's more painful than a gray divorce. Because gray divorce, you just go on your merry way, and yeah, you may leave with pain and hurt and all that, but at the same time, you can restart. You can restart your life, and if you know who you are, then you're happy with yourself, you're at peace, and you have joy, and you can do whatever you want. But to be in the same house with someone living a life of monotony, on autopilot, and a life with no stimulation, no motivation, no plans, no outlook, no hope. That can be painful. Why? Because you get up and every day you do the same thing every day. You go through the same motion every day. You go through the same motion. And then, after a while, one of you may say, no mas, that's it. I am not going to do this anymore. if you become aware of, yourself and evolving and things of that, watching this show and you're like, no, wait a minute, I don't have to do that. Because what this has done to me, this show, this whole series of self examination, it's really made me check myself in a whole different way. I tell you, not only does it, do I like myself more, but I am checking everything. I am checking everything. My husband, we have plans for this weekend, and the dynamics has changed, and so this morning he comes in and he said, yeah, I made reservations for XYZ at this place at this time on this day. And I was pleasantly surprised because I am the one that would always do that. He would say, do this or whatever, but he did it. He did it himself. And that was just so beautiful because he's intentional. I see that he is intentional. And it's when you want to show your girl, your partner, your bride, whatever, you want to show them what you are made of. You are a brand new person. You are a person that's mature, that's grown, that's evolved, that's changed, that's conscious, that's now more aware, and you're doing things intentionally. My friend, whatever your situation is, whether it's that you're single, you can make plans, you can set your expectations, your goals, your standards, your boundaries. You can set all that. And that's fun because, when you meet someone, you will know, again, you don't look for red flags. You try to determine what's going to work for you. Do they fit into the lifestyle that you envision for yourself? Because when you go on a date, you're not auditioning for someone to choose you. No, you're going to see if together as you meet, if you can build something fun and adventurous and a life that can be fulfilling for both of you. And for those of you that are in partnership with someone, again, take a look at that. Take a look at your partnership, your marriage, your union, and examine it. And the best thing you can do when you start that journey is to be honest with yourself. Then you can be honest between you in the relationship, but you have to be honest with yourself. What's working? One woman worked. She said that, or I guess it's the husband. He doesn't want to do church anymore, and so they're working that out. He doesn't want to do church anymore because now he's done his research and he has different ideas about church and religion and religious doctrine and all that. So they're working that out because the wife is not there yet. So can they do a reset? Only they can determine what's going to work for them. I'm going to leave you with that. But just know I am fascinated by this whole mindset, this whole way of thinking. To end the marriage and reset to a new relationship with the same parties, the same people. That to me is so fascinating. A reset. Every Thursday, we meet right here, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here. And if you can't join me at that time, then you can pick up the feed. You see these icon, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can pick up the feed 24/7. In the meantime, tomorrow's Friday and the weekend is right around the corner. I trust you have whatever you plan to do. Sometimes my plans for the weekend is because I've gotten into this thing about resting, just resting. Sometimes I just stay in bed till noon. And if it's something that I want to do, it works for me, then I do it. That's my level of personal care at this time. Anyway, my friends, I will see you same time next week right here. But in the meantime, enjoy your weekend and do whatever makes you happy. And I trust you can kind of revisit this whole concept of uh, ending a marriage or ending a relationship, whatever, and resetting to a brand new relationship. I find it fascinating. So, ciao, hasta la próxima.